Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another mod review. It's been a while, but a really interesting mod dropped earlier this week by Zoodad, who once again proves to be one of my favourite modders in the Total War scene. This is Karanak, Hound of Vengeance, which adds in, well, you guessed it, Karanakh. This is Khorne's favourite battle doggo. He hunts down characters with a vengeance, never stops. It's a character which has a decent amount of lore and is featured in many different army books. It's one of those characters which a lot of Khorne players do really enjoy, and it's something that we're expecting in the future. We just don't know how it's going to be implemented officially. However, Zoodad has come in and introduced him, and it's just absolutely awesome. You can see the character. He looks so good. It's just one of these things where, you know, a character with 3 heads is quite hard to implement. I imagine that this was not easy at all, but damn does it look amazing. So the character can be recruited in both custom battles and campaign, and we're going to jump into how to get him in your campaign. So to recruit Karanakh, you won't recruit him in the traditional sense. In fact, it's tied to the first quest that you get as soon as you start a fresh campaign. You know, the whole kill the enemy army, which is there to kind of get you used to the game. It's literally that easy, and I think that's a really good thing to do. Obviously, keep in mind that you won't get the Blood Reaper that you normally get at the very beginning, but you're replacing it for something far stronger and faster, so yeah, it works out pretty well. The character will then instantly spawn, and you'll have the usual stuff when you get a legendary character and stuff, so you get a little bit of a lore tidbit, you get some information to kind of add it to the story, which I think is great. It really is a very immersive mod, and you can see the character himself also shows up there. He'll spawn with full movement, so you can just instantly move him into Scarbrand depending if you've moved too much or not. But usually if you've just killed the first army, wherever your army ends up, you're fine to just plop Karanakh right onto it. And I think it's pretty cool. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with this, and we're going to get into the specific details as to why now. So Karanakh obviously has his own skill trees because he's a legendary hero, and the beginning one, so obviously the one at the very bottom and then the generic fighting one, focuses around the usual stuff. Administration, which increases your movement range, spreading corruption. It can also do assassinations of other heroes if you decide to have the character out and about patrolling, which is a valuable thing to do. And obviously the other stuff is, you know, maim, kill, and all that. So increasing your attack output to make the character pretty strong. He's strong enough as it is, and we'll get into the stats a little bit later. But generally, the character can do a lot of damage even at level 1. And it will just keep getting stronger and stronger to the point that you will see this as quite a powerhouse, I'd say. Now, you do have some special abilities and a unique skill line, so there's a few different things which make this character really, really cool. One of them is at the end of your normal combat tree, which is Prey of the Blood God, which puts a massively powerful debuff on enemies. Obviously, this is to allow for Karanakh to go hunting, and I've used it a few times. It is really, really fun. Then you've got stuff like being able to summon a unit of Flesh Hounds, but that's in a very different sense. Honestly, it's a really, really interesting implementation. You're also able to increase the capabilities of your Flesh Hounds, be better at assassinations. There's just so many different things. I think the character is implemented really, really well. It's definitely very heavily inspired, and I absolutely love this. I think this might be the best legendary hero mod so far. Hopefully we see more to this standard, because the character is just so fun to play. You can get it to have extra skulls from battles, helping out your armies. You can give it terror. You can give it perfect vigor, which is really, really good if you're using it to character hunt. It is honestly just so fun to play. The character is just so well done. For those of you who know this channel for a long time now, you know that I'm a big fan of legendary heroes. So this mod was definitely something that I needed to download as soon as possible. When it comes to stats, you can see that Karanakh himself is quite strong, you know, high health pool, decently high armor, but where he accelerates the most is speed and doing some damage. As I've said, this character is built for character hunting, and his speed will allow for that. With 95 speed baseline, it's going to be quite difficult for a lot of things to outrun you. Yes, there will be some things that are faster, but in most cases, you're going to be able to catch up and do it. You'll also want to be able to hit some generic units too, not just the characters, so you'll be able to summon in the free Flesh Hounds, because, I mean, who doesn't want a free summon? And in general, the character is really, really, really good. So I'm going to test out Karanakh with some extra doggos in a custom battle versus the Force of Nurgle. My force is, well, a little bit tailored because randomly generating was a bit weird, But for Nurgle, it was randomly generated and it had a lot of different forces. The main thing is I wanted to have Karanakh, I wanted to have some extra doggos just to kind of have an interesting type of lineup. I will say the Khornate stuff is fairly expensive. Obviously, it's very powerful when it gets to melee, but it's a bit too expensive for me. And just as a personal hope for the future, I hope that Creative Assembly give us a type of buffing character. Yes, I know we have the Herald, and obviously we have the Blood Reaper, but I'm saying another one to just kind of even out with the lack of magic, because I just feel that Khorne would benefit from a warrior priest type character just to have a little bit extra flavor. However, with all that being said, Karanakh is really cool. I've been using it in campaign, which was legendary very hard, and I managed to do quite a lot of damage. The character coming early on does give you a significant boost, especially for legendary mode, and you do feel it being able to hunt down characters and just get the enemy to lose their leadership bonus very early on. It depends on how you use the character though, because he can get bogged down. You need to be very careful. He does work a lot better with Flesh Hounds, which I know a lot of people don't tend to use, but I would say that it does work in a very interesting way. There's a lot of theme there. You don't have to use it with Skarbrand. You can even use him as a character with another army. It very much depends, but I would say that it was really well inspired. I think the character has taken a lot of tabletop stuff into it, and I think that's a really good thing. But then again, this is Zoodad. Zoodad is a fantastic modder which does this a lot. If you've played any of his Warhammer 2 mods, you'll know that there's a lot of heavy emphasis on going into lore, going into tabletop, and I think that's really special. Early on, as you can see, deployment really wasn't great. I think that was more of the case that I was trying to get to a flank. I wasn't expecting for the Plague Toads to be in that location, but moving around is simple enough, especially since the dogs are so quick. The idea is just to slam into the enemy, obviously, but using the dogs to be able to pin stuff around, being able to do what you need to do really with the Flesh Hounds, because keep in mind that the Flesh Hounds themselves are very strong when compared to normal Warhounds or any other dog units. It's very easy to tell that at the very beginning I was not doing very well, because obviously meeting Nurgle head on is a bit difficult because they're so resilient, and even my Herald was not doing so well. The Herald was on a Juggernaut, but it was not able to do a decent amount of damage towards the Herald of Nurgle, which was on a Palanquin, which is a tad disappointing, to say the very least. He would have lost if I would have kept him there, I think. But as you'll start to see now, I start moving Karanakh in, and Karanakh, especially when you just use all his procs, he can start demolishing the Herald of Nurgle, which is obviously what you expect from a character which is tailored to kill characters. It doesn't really take too long, and that means that I can focus around the other areas so I can actually start getting my forces killing off the rest of the enemies. It's very important. I think the dogs worked out quite well here too. Having so many different Flesh Hounds was a good way to just pin enemy down and get them from flanks and so on, which is obviously something that you want to do anyway, but even more so if you're using Karanakh. Karanakh is also very able to fight normal troops, and that's done in an interesting way, where if you have him supported, there'll be a lot more damage as expected, but when the enemy gets to a certain point of health, then there's a chance to summon in a free group of Flesh Hounds of Khorne, which I think adds into the flavor. It adds in extra dogs to do more damage. They'll last for a decent amount of time, and you also just have them being able to then go to the next enemy. There is a cooldown. There's 2 uses for this, and the cooldown is around 60 seconds, but that's 2 units potentially of Flesh Hounds of Khorne for free, so it works out really well. Having just recently painted the model of this character again, as it wasn't really done well when I originally did it when I was a teenager, it's nice to see it in Total War Warhammer, and if you want to try out the mod, the link of it can be found in the description below, so I would suggest playing it. It's really good. Until then, I shall see you all again very soon.
Warriors of Khorne. dark gods.